Good afternoon and welcome to the Kansas African American Museum. I'm Dr. Lana Reeves. I'm the Education Director and the Education and Community Outreach Director here at the museum. And I want to welcome you to Senior Wednesday at the Kansas African American Museum, or as we like to affectionately call it, TCAM. Today we are going to talk about what we do have in the museum today. We have Defining Black Wichita, 1930s to 1970s, which was the Dunbar McAdams District, the heart of the community. And here in our main gallery, some awesome information, pictures, artifacts from that time period of right here in Wichita, when Wichita or Black Wichita was primarily found in the Dunbar and McAdams district. So come on down between now and December 23rd and check out the exhibition. Of course, part one is upstairs in our Journey Through Kansas gallery. And you could also check out the earliest days of Black Wichita. From the very beginning, African Americans were right here in Wichita, Kansas. As a matter of fact, Richard Robinson was one of the signers of the city's articles of incorporation. And we have a artifact that features that piece of history right here in the museum. And as I said, up in our Journey Through Kansas gallery. So come on down and check it all out. And of course, you get to see a picture of our awesome Trailblazer inductees for 2020 that are right here available in the museum today. And of course, that includes our Trailblazers, Mrs. Carla Echols and Sam Ford, who is also, they were also our broadcast Trailblazers. Then we also have our rising star, Dr. Charlotte Smith, who is an awesome individual who works over at the KU Medical Center. And then also we have our uh, other trailblazer from the business district, Mrs. Janetta. I always say her name wrong. I'm sorry, Mrs. Everett. Miss Janetta Everett from right here in Wichita. She has done some really awesome things. Come down and find out a little bit more about them. And of course, if you go to our webpage and right here on our Facebook page, you can also find the link that could put you into a 2020 tribute to Trailblazers Hall of Fame right here at the Kansas African American Museum. There's an awesome broadcast presentation that features all of our inductees into the Trailblazer Hall of Fame that will help you to get acquainted with who they are and some of the awesome things that they have done that trailblaze the path for us to follow and to be more aware and culturally correct here in our community here in Wichita, Kansas, and the state of Kansas, and of course, the United States of America. So we are so proud to be here today. Again, we're at the Kansas African American Museum. I'm Dr. Lana Reeves. And today I would like to also tell you about another one of our programs that we have that your children and grandchildren might be interested in participating in. It is called our Adinkra Journey to Greatness program. Now, if you will go over to our online engagement center, you can see the channel where Adinkra will be. And in order to sign up, you have to sign up in order to have access to that channel. Just give me an email at lana.reeves@tkaamuseum.org. That's lona.reeves@tkaamuseum.org. If you'll email me, I'll get you enrolled in the program and you'll be able to access our monthly Zoom classes and then be able to come and check out the sessions. We plan to have 9 sessions this year featuring African American history, especially Kansas history, some Wichita history, right there in our Adinkra channel. And that's our Adinkra Journey to Greatness program. Now, that program came about as a result of a partnership with Holy Savior Catholic Academy's Ubuntu Village. They have a Saturday school, which actually has some activities that they do throughout the school year. But last year was the first year of the program. And what happens is students were enrolled and they came down to the museum and we had culture classes once a month here at the museum. And we're going to do something similar to that this year, except we're doing it online. You know, thanks to our new friend COVID-19, we're making adjustments to how we do things. And this is one way where you can get some information about African American history, Kansas history and culture right here at the Kansas African American Museum. Now, Dr. Delia Shropshire, she is the director over there, and she may be able to make it down this afternoon. We're not sure, but she may be here before the program is over. But in the meantime, I'll just tell you a little bit about it. Again, it is a partnership with Ubuntu Village Saturday School, and it's about African and African American cultural awareness. And on the third Saturdays of the month is when we have our Zoom session in the mornings, and we usually have 3 different hours of information to share with our students. That first hour, we call that the Adinkra symbol hour. And what happens is that first hour, we'll talk about one of the Adinkra symbols. You see the symbol here is called the Adinkra symbol from the Adinkra people, actually situated in Ghana. And they had a lovely set of symbols that have meaning and really kind of underscore activities in life. This is one of their most awesome symbols. Of course, it means greatness. And of course, this is a program about getting to know ourselves better. And so we call it a Dinkrahine Journey to Greatness, a self-awareness and culture program. And so that second hour, we will look at what we call our We Are Culture Hour. And we talk a little bit more about history and some of the culture that can be found among Africans and African Americans. Now, last year, that first year of the program, we studied primarily African culture and looked at the continent of Africa and actually the diaspora, the other places where Africans can be found. Of course, the United States and even Kansas are not the only place where we can find Africans. And so we'll look at that. And then that third hour is what we call our Gwendolyn Brooks Cultural Hour. Now, you know, Gwendolyn Brooks is the African American poet who was born here in Kansas. And she was still a child when she moved to Chicago, but she was the first African American to win a Pulitzer Prize. And she won it for her poetry. Annie Allen, it was a book of poetry that she put together. And it netted her the Pulitzer Prize, the first African American to do so. And so we call that our Gwendolyn Brooks Hour, and we'll look at different cultural activities that and African Americans who have created those. Like we'll study poetry one week, another week we'll look at writers in general and talk about stories that have been written. We'll also look at performance like dance and acting, those kinds of things, different kinds of things, athletics, all kinds of different genres of activities that African Americans or anybody actually, but we're going to look at African Americans who participate in these different genre of activities, and that is our Gwendolyn Brooks Hour. And we'll have different activities that kind of will go back to what that theme was for that hour, and then maybe a person that will be featured for that hour. And we'll probably learn about at least 3 people during the day. There'll be a different person for each hour that will get some information and maybe some of their works. Like if you were like as a poet, we would of course share some of Miss Gwendolyn Brooks' poetry. But these are some of the things that we'll be doing at Adinkra Journey to Greatness. And again, to sign up, it doesn't cost a penny. It just needs take some time. Send me an email. Say that you're interested in signing up for the Adinkra Journey to Greatness, and I will get you signed up. And what I need in order to sign you up is I need to know your name, your grade, and your email address, obviously. And then, like I said, we have 100 seats available for the Zoom sessions each month, and we will email you the Zoom link so that you'll be able to Zoom in, and as well remind you that the program is coming up on that particular Saturday. Again, that's the Adinkra Journey to Greatness program. So also what we have going on here at the museum is we have our recommended reading list. And we have some pretty awesome books on our recommended reading list. As a matter of fact, some of those books we also have available in our Heritage gift shop. On our list that you can find in the gift shop. Descent in Wichita, the Civil Rights Movement in the Midwest, 1954 to 1972. This is written by Dr. Gretchen Cassell Ike. Kinship Concealed, Amish Mennonite African American Family Connections, written by Dr. Sharon Cranford and Dwight E. Roth. It is also available. Remember, she was here um, for Senior Wednesday and told us some stories about the book and about how the book even came into being. We actually have two editions of that book in our gift shop, and another one of her books that was illustrated by our uh, curator here, Miss Paris Cunningham, Grammy Ums. You be sure to come and check that book out. It's an interesting little booklet that kind of helps you with your English. And then also we have Acrophobia 1977, the 1977 Wichita Heights Falcons, written by Mark Nail. Also, we have a special book two special books actually that children will be most interested in: The Adventures of Nicodemus Annie, Getting Mail by Angela Bates of the Nicodemus Group. We also have People, Pride, and Promise, the story of the Dockham Sit-In, written by Priska Barnes and illustrated by Priscilla Brown. And also we have on our list. Now, this one's not currently available in our um, heritage shop, but we have Black Horizon, One Aviator's Experience in the Post-Tuskegee Era by U.L. Rip Gooch, former Kansas State Senator, with Glenn Sharp. We also have Freedom is Not Enough, Black Voters, Black Candidates in American Presidential Politics by Dr. Ronald Walters. Also on the list, We Were 8 Years in Power in American Tragedy by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Also on the list, Stamped, the Remix, which is the shorter and version written primarily for young people by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi and Jason Reynolds. And then, of course, we have the extended version, Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. Now, this one's not available in our bookshop yet, but it is an awesome read. As a matter of fact, I just finished reading it, and it's a book that once you read it, you'll go back to it as a reference. And I know I enjoyed it so much that I think I'm on my third read of the book. It is really an awesome book. And keep an eye on our Facebook page. We'll give you some information about when we start blogging about um, Stamp from the Beginning. I think that's going to be my first book to really try to get a conversation going on about the definitive history of racist ideas in America and how we can do some things. He has a second book written, How to Be Anti-Racist. It's also by Dr. Kendi. We can talk about some of the things that we can do in our day-to-day life that we can be anti-racist and make life better for all of us right here in Wichita and in Kansas and in these United States. Again, that's Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of the Racist Ideas in America by Dr. Ibram X. Kendi. So we have quite a few things going on down here at the museum. Like I said, there's the Defining Black Wichita, which is our exhibition that is currently on in this on display in our main gallery. And our curator Paris Cunningham has come up with some really awesome pictures, videos, memorabilia, artifacts that will just make you go wow and just make you stop and think, and at the same time really inform you about Black history, Black people, Black culture right here in Black Wichita. As a matter of fact, over on our wall over there, we have our sports wall. We have our athlete, Mr. Sexton, who was a Wichita State University football player who went on to play in the professional NFL league. As a matter of fact, he was he was in the not Linwood Sexton. I got him backwards again. I get them twisted. Linwood Sexton is actually the mentor of Mr. Curtis McClinton, right? I got it right this time? Okay. Mr. McClinton is the Wichita State football player who went on to play in the NFL, and we have his football that he won as a member of the Kansas City Chiefs when they initially won the Super Bowl. And that was 1965, 69. I do that. 1965 is when they started. I've been studying the Chiefs and I'm trying to get my numbers and names straight. But 1965 is when they came into being, and 1969 is when they won the Super Bowl. And of course, they won again this year. Go Chiefs! But if you come down to the museum, you will get to see an actual Super Bowl football signed by Mr. McClinton to Mr. Sexton, his mentor. And so it actually belongs to the Sexton family, but it was given by Mr. McClinton. And then, of course, you can also find out about some really awesome dates and activities that happened here during the 1930s to the 1970s here in Wichita, primarily up in the Dunbar McAdams area, when that was the heart of the African American community. I'm sitting here where, in what, when you come down to the museum, would be the Pyatt plane crash display. And of course, then you know about that. Then you know that there's going to be lots of information about Mr. Chester I. Lewis, who's one of the key figures during that period, who was definitely a mover and a shaker and made sure that things were taken care of after the Pyatt Street plane crash. And also was one of those people who was involved in the Dockham sit-in, which is also featured in that time period. You come and see the faces of the young people as they were in those days back in 1958 when that Dockham sit-in occurred. It was July and August of 1958, right down there at Broadway and Douglas here in Wichita, Kansas, when the first successful sit-in occurred that caused African Americans to be served not only in Wichita, but across the state of Kansas when they came into Rexall drugstores, lunch counters. And it also opened up other doors here in the community. But come and find out a little bit more about Mr. Chester I. Lewis. There's some pictures here of him and the Northeast Street young men who helped take care of the community. Come and find out about, what is it, Miss Sweets. And she had this awesome restaurant that served great food. People are still talking about it. Um, Come and see the churches, how the churches changed. You know, back in 1911, the this was Second Baptist Church right here in Wichita, Kansas. 1917, this building was actually built. And then around, what was it, 1970, it was that they moved north to the hillside area. And it was not just the Second Baptist, or actually it was now known as Calvary Baptist Church, but it was also St. Paul AME, which was just catty-cornered across the street here from Calvary Baptist Church. And it was actually here first, but both churches moved up to the Northeast Wichita area. And there's some information about those churches. Is if you want to see what this church looked like when it was a church with the pews and the choirs, there are pictures of that time period. When you can see, if you have a hard time, when you come into the museum going, "Oh, where were the pews? How did they sit? How did they set up?" Well, you can come and see how it really looked in some of the pictures that we have on display here as part of Defining Black Wichita. Again, if there's any questions that you would like to ask us, you know how to use that Facebook uh, request to ask some questions right there at TCAM Museum. Um, Ask us some questions, but in the meantime, if there aren't any questions, we don't have a whole lot more to say, but except that we hope that you have some merry holidays coming up. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and the next coming up next year, we'll have a new exhibition featuring art through the ages, African American art, and also it will also be time to look towards celebrating our hero, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday next January. So we're looking forward to that. And then, of course, we're looking forward to the opportunity to have our another um, history come to life when real men, real heroes bring African Americans to life with the young men who are the young heroes in the program, study and become some people or person in African American history. We're looking forward to that activity. We got some really awesome things coming up down here at the Kansas African American Museum. And of course, please, if you haven't seen it yet, man, if you missed it on Saturday when it premiered, see our Trailblazer tribute to Trailblazers Hall of Fame program, and it is an awesome, awesome broadcast presentation. You get an opportunity to learn not only about the museum and how it came into being and what it is that we're trying to do down here, but you also get to learn about 5 individuals and their contributions that are ongoing, still making a difference here in Wichita, Kansas, and in the United States of America. Because one of our comes from Kansas, but is actually out in Washington, D.C., making a difference. And then, of course, our posthumous trailblazer, I think I forgot to mention her, Miss Hattie McDaniel, born 4 blocks from here, from right here from the Kansas African American Museum. And she rose to become the first African American to win an Oscar award for her role in the movie Gone with the Wind. Now, if you've done any research at all, you know that she comes from a performing family, and her family was not only was she in the movies, but she had a brother and a sister who were also in the movies. But Hattie McDaniel, she's another one of our heroes right here at the Kansas African American Museum. We call them Trailblazers. And come down and check out her picture on display, as well as all of our other Trailblazers, Mrs. Carla Eccles, Mr. Sam Ford, Dr. Charlotte Smith, and Mrs. Janetta Everett, all of our Trailblazers here at the Kansas African American Museum. Do we have any questions on Facebook today? Okay, well then in the meantime, let me just say, please, if you're interested in participating in our Dinkrahine program, please send me an email at lana.reeves@tkaamuseum.org and we'll get you signed up. And again, thank you for hanging with us this week today at the Kansas African American Museum Senior Wednesday. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2020.